In the far reaches of the observable universe lies a galaxy that defies traditional form, a sprawling system of stars and dust so complex it has come to be known as the Labyrinth Galaxy. Unlike the elegant, symmetric spirals of standard galactic architecture, this galaxy twists upon itself, its arms looping and folding like vast celestial ribbons trapped in a state of elegant disarray. It doesn't radiate disorder, but rather a kind of wild intelligence, a structure shaped not by chance alone, but by the long, slow dialogue of gravity, time, and collision. From afar, the labyrinth seems to hover on the edge of chaos, but a closer examination reveals an underlying pattern. There are layers upon layers of motion, stars migrating along curved lanes, gas clouds spiraling inward through tangled corridors, and stellar nurseries igniting where turbulence compresses matter into new suns. Every loop of its spiral is a timeline distorted, a signature of past encounters with other galaxies, their gravitational hands pulling and twisting the structure like liquid iron being forged into something unfamiliar, yet purposeful. Deep in the center, hidden beneath folds of ancient dust, lies a supermassive black hole whose mass dominates the inner dynamics of the galaxy. It doesn't simply sit at the core, it feeds, radiates, interacts. Its pull is not symmetrical, its influence not uniform. Some jets of matter shoot off at angles, others are bent and curved, as though the galaxy itself is struggling to contain the violence at its heart. Around it, stars spin in ellipses warped by invisible forces, and shock waves from past eruptions ripple outward, stirring the gas and shaping future generations of stars. The galaxy's magnetic fields are equally contorted, wound like tangled cords along the dust lanes and spiral arms. They guide the movement of charged particles, influence where stars can form, and create subtle boundaries between hot and cold regions, between ionized gas and molecular clouds. These fields are not static, they pulse, shift, and stretch as the galaxy breathes through cosmic time. The very structure of space is shaped by them, and in turn, they are shaped by the dance of matter and energy inside the galaxy's ever-shifting core. Spectral analysis reveals uneven chemical distribution throughout the disk. In some arms, heavy elements like iron, oxygen, and silicon are found in abundance, relics of countless supernovae that once burned there. In others, the metallicity drops unexpectedly, suggesting areas stripped of their star-forming fuel, or regions diluted by the infall of primordial gas. The chemical map of the labyrinth is not smooth, it is jagged, patchy, full of contrast and complexity. Every deviation tells a story, and every story links back to another galaxy, another time, another gravitational interaction whose traces still echo in the motion of stars. The outer regions of the labyrinth are traced by faint tidal streams, long fingers of stars slowly unraveling from past collisions. These stellar streams drift like cosmic ghosts, wrapping around the galaxy in gentle arcs, following paths laid out millions of years ago. They are not random, they are fossils, preserved evidence of a long evolutionary process, where galaxies consume their neighbors not in violence, but in prolonged, gravitational seduction. The labyrinth has devoured many, and it wears their remains like flowing veils of light. Observing it in multiple wavelengths reveals even more layers. In optical light, it glows with a soft golden hue, pierced by knots of brilliant blue where massive, young stars still burn hot and fast. In infrared, the colder, hidden regions emerge, dust lanes thick with potential, where gravity has not yet ignited the fire of nuclear fusion. In radio, we hear the echo of past events, supernova remnants, jets of particles, the whisper of cosmic rays threading through the magnetic fog. And in X-rays, we see heat, intense and ancient, radiating from the galaxy's bruised core, from black hole outflows, from gas compressed to the point of ignition. There is no simple narrative here. The Labyrinth Galaxy does not move toward a single destiny but rotates through endless cycles of transformation. Stars are born, live, die, and return their ashes to the disk, seeding future generations with heavier elements. Black holes awaken and sleep, pulsing energy into the interstellar medium, regulating the pace of creation. Dust gathers and disperses, shaped by the waves of energy washing through the galactic sea. Each part of the galaxy is responding to others in ways we are only beginning to understand. The entire structure operates like a living system, adaptive, dynamic, restless. And yet, despite the chaos, the galaxy persists. Its form, though broken and distorted, holds together. Its arms, though tangled, still spiral. Its center, though wounded by ancient violence, still burns with presence and purpose. It is not a galaxy recovering from damage, it is a galaxy that has become something new. Not a ruin, but a reinvention. A cosmic organism shaped by countless pressures, carrying the memory of every interaction it has ever endured. The Labyrinth Galaxy is not just a record of the past, it is a canvas where the present is still being written. At its edges, star formation continues in uneven bursts, driven by the collapse of cold gas clouds under their own gravity, or by the compression from waves of energy moving outward from the core. In some regions, stars form in tight clusters, bright and short-lived, destined to explode as supernovae within a few million years. In others, star birth is slower, more diffuse, spread out along tendrils of gas that weave through the spiral arms like veins in a leaf. Between these regions lie voids, silent, vast, and dark. These aren't empty spaces, but zones where the raw material for stars has been exhausted or blown away. Winds from massive stars, radiation pressure, and the gravitational tides from past interactions have stripped these regions clean, leaving behind only ancient, dim stars orbiting in quiet paths. These voids add texture to the galactic structure, marking the spaces where life has passed, where cycles have ended, and where new ones may begin in time. In simulations, models of the Labyrinth Galaxy struggle to fully replicate its complexity. The parameters required to match its observed features include multiple minor mergers, at least one major collision, and long periods of internal dynamical rebalancing. It's a system far from equilibrium, yet not collapsing, a paradox sustained by layers of interaction. Each star, each gas cloud, each fragment of a devoured galaxy adds weight to the equation, and the result is neither chaos nor calm, but something in between. Something sustained. The dark matter halo that envelopes the labyrinth is asymmetric, lopsided in a way that hints at continuous gravitational influence from external structures. It does not form a perfect shell but instead wraps the galaxy like a crooked cocoon, altering the rotation curves and distorting the outer disk. This hidden structure, invisible to our eyes but evident in the motions of stars, plays a fundamental role in holding the galaxy together. It is the skeleton beneath the light, a reminder that what we see is only a fraction of what exists. And even beyond the halo, the galaxy is not alone. Filaments of gas connect it to the larger cosmic web, linking it to other galaxies, clusters, and dark voids. These connections are thin, often invisible, but they matter. Through them, material flows slowly in and out of the galaxy, feeding it, draining it, exchanging momentum and energy with the larger universe. The labyrinth is not a closed system. It breathes with the cosmos. As our instruments improve, as new generations of space telescopes come online, we see more detail in the labyrinth than ever before. Tiny fluctuations in stellar velocity, microlensing events caused by wandering black holes, subtle shifts in the spectral lines of distant gas, these are the threads we now follow, the tiny pieces of evidence that build toward a fuller picture. But the more we learn, the more the mystery deepens. The labyrinth doesn't get simpler as we approach. It becomes richer, more layered, more alive. To understand it fully would mean understanding gravity, time, matter, magnetism, turbulence, and perhaps even the nature of memory itself. Because in many ways, the galaxy functions like a memory system, holding on to imprints of its past, recording the aftermath of every encounter, folding that history into its structure. Stars orbit not just through space, but through old decisions, old events, old collapses and collisions. The very curvature of its arms is a record of ancient choices made by gravity. And somewhere within all that motion and light, new possibilities are always beginning. Planets are forming around young stars, circling in icy rings and molten disks. Some of those planets may be destined for silence, frozen or scorched beyond habitability. Others may warm into life. Given enough time and stability, given the right chemistry and the right distance from their stars, they might begin their own long experiments in complexity. And perhaps, in the far future, there could be beings there who look up and try to understand their place in that tangled sky. They would look up into a night unlike ours, one not defined by orderly constellations, but by luminous arcs and spiraling distortions. Their skies would be filled with curves and asymmetries, trails of star clusters veering in unexpected directions, diffuse glows from star-forming knots flickering across the heavens. The very concept of a galactic plane might seem irrelevant to them, because the labyrinth doesn't offer a clean horizon. It offers depth. Layers. History written in the architecture of light. For such a civilization, their myths and sciences might intertwine in different ways. They might see in the twisted arms of their galaxy not just celestial mechanics, but origin stories. Tales of worlds born from collision, of balance born from turmoil. The labyrinth would not simply be a background, they would live inside it, shaped by it, their biology and culture bound to its rhythms. Their calendars might follow the strange pulses of the galactic core, their migrations tied to the radiation cycles of star-forming regions. If they developed astronomy, it would not begin with simplicity. It would begin with complexity, with the challenge of understanding a sky where every pattern breaks the rules. And from that starting point, they might come to the same realization we have, that galaxies are not finished things. They are not monuments. They are processes, unfolding across time scales far beyond the comprehension of any single generation. The labyrinth is not a snapshot, it is an ongoing sentence in the language of the universe. A sentence written in spiral fragments, interrupted by commas of collapse, ellipses of dust, and exclamations of stellar birth. As we study this galaxy from our own distant perspective, we do so not just with telescopes, but with imagination. We project ourselves into its spiral arms, walk in thought across its dust lanes, drift alongside its stellar streams. It becomes a place we can almost inhabit. And in doing so, it ceases to be other. It becomes part of our story too. In the end, The Labyrinth Galaxy challenges us in ways most galaxies do not. It resists summary. It rejects reduction. It is not a typical spiral, not an elliptical, not a clear merger remnant. It is in between, and in being in between, it becomes something unique. Something essential. It shows us that not all galaxies fit cleanly into categories, just as not all stories end the way they begin. It invites us to explore, not to conclude. To orbit questions, not answers. And through that invitation, it becomes a symbol, not of confusion, but of emergence. A map not of a place, but of a process. A structure not of perfection, but of transformation. The more we trace its spirals, the more we understand that the Labyrinth Galaxy isn't meant to be solved like a puzzle, it's meant to be followed, experienced, unfolded slowly over time. Its shape is not a flaw, but a record of resilience. Its complexity is not an obstacle to understanding, but a deeper form of coherence that transcends simplicity. It teaches us that symmetry is only one kind of beauty, and that sometimes, the truest harmony is found in imbalance. In this galaxy, even the flow of time seems different. Not in the literal, relativistic sense, but in the way it reveals history. Every feature in the labyrinth is a frozen echo of movement. Each kink in an arm, each bend in a gas filament, each sudden burst of star formation marks a moment where something changed, where the galaxy responded to its environment, adapted, absorbed, and redefined itself. The past isn't hidden here. It's etched into the very structure of the galaxy like tree rings stretched across tens of thousands of light years. And what of the future? The labyrinth story is far from over. It will continue to evolve, to interact with its surroundings, to shed old stars and birth new ones. It may merge again, or slowly disperse its arms into the intergalactic medium. Its central black hole may awaken once more, unleashing jets that pierce through its tangled disk. Or perhaps it will quiet down, entering a long, slow twilight as its fuel depletes and its activity fades. But even then, even as the lights dim, the memory of all that has passed will remain written in its form. To us, it remains a beacon, not of certainty, but of possibility. It reminds us that the universe does not operate according to our preferences. It evolves through tension, through collapse, through improbable resilience. The labyrinth is a galaxy forged not in perfection, but in persistence. And in that, it mirrors life itself. A balance struck not by erasing struggle, but by surviving it. As we continue to observe it across the electromagnetic spectrum, decoding its signals, running simulations, drawing comparisons, we are engaging in something more than astronomy. We are participating in a dialogue across light years. We are recognizing in this distant, distorted structure a truth that resonates across all scales, that meaning often arises not in clarity, but in the richness of complexity. That beauty is not always what is clean and ordered. Sometimes, beauty is what refuses to break. It invites us to see endurance not as mere survival, but as a form of artistry, an evolving architecture of matter, memory, and motion. The labyrinth is not only shaped by external forces, it also shapes them in return. It distorts the trajectories of nearby systems, influences the paths of intergalactic gas, bends light through its mass. It exerts presence. In a universe where most things drift anonymously through the dark, this galaxy declares itself, a luminous irregularity, a voice in the silence. And through it, we come to understand galaxies not as fixed entities, but as expressions of the universe's creativity. Each one is a different solution to the same set of physical laws. Some form orderly spirals, others collapse into compact spheroids. But galaxies like the Labyrinth refuse to follow either script. They evolve on the margins, between categories, shaped by rare interactions and strange histories. They are, in many ways, the most honest representations of cosmic evolution, where nothing is predictable, and everything is connected. From a distance of hundreds of millions of light-years, the light of the Labyrinth takes generations to reach us. It began its journey long before the first humans appeared, before Earth even cooled from its molten youth. That same light now enters our instruments, strikes our detectors, becomes data, and then becomes story. Every photon carries not only energy, but information, about temperature, motion, chemical makeup, gravitational distortion. And from that information, we reconstruct a vision not just of a galaxy, but of a process that spans eons. There is something humbling in that. Something grounding. In a world so often obsessed with immediate outcomes, the Labyrinth teaches patience. Its arms stretch across scales our minds struggle to hold. Its history is one of long arcs and slow transformations. It doesn't rush. It simply becomes. And in watching it, in mapping its intricacies and tracing its distortions, we're reminded of the broader truth that all structure, whether galactic, planetary, biological, or even psychological, emerges from interaction. From collision, pressure, imbalance, and feedback. Nothing stays as it was. Nothing remains untouched. The universe is a dynamic system, and we, like the Labyrinth, are part of its unfolding. The stars within it continue to orbit. The gas continues to flow. The black hole breathes in silence, wrapped in the same dark mystery that surrounds the hearts of all galaxies. And we, from our small place in the cosmos, continue to watch, to learn, and to be shaped by the light that left those stars long before we were here to receive it. And in receiving it, we inherit a kind of responsibility, not just to study, but to listen. To treat galaxies not as trophies on a cosmic map, but as narratives unfolding across impossible distances, each with its own internal logic, its own tempo, its own scars. The Labyrinth Galaxy, in all its defiant complexity, reminds us that not everything in the universe was meant to be simple. That not all stories fit into linear progressions or clean definitions. Some are meant to be followed in spirals, with detours and folds, with echoes and unresolved threads. The more we gaze into its depths, the more we see that even the most chaotic forms contain order at another level. The distribution of mass, the clustering of stars, the diffusion of gas, all of it governed by laws, yet expressing those laws in unexpected ways. There is symmetry in asymmetry, rhythm in distortion. The galaxy's rotation, uneven as it may seem, is still predictable. Its orbits, complex though they are, still obey the invisible geometry of gravity and momentum. We begin to realize that perhaps the Labyrinth is not an outlier at all, but a preview of what many galaxies will become. Over billions of years, the elegant spirals we see today may distort as well, twisted by mergers, pulled by tidal forces, reshaped by the ever-flowing rivers of the cosmic web. In that sense, the Labyrinth may be not a deviation, but a destiny. A glimpse of the future shape of cosmic structure as it continues to evolve through interactions we can scarcely imagine. And so, it becomes a window into time, past and future both. A lens through which we study the physics of collision, the fluidity of galactic identity, the resilience of structure in the face of disruption. And in that window, we also catch a reflection of ourselves. Like the labyrinth, we are shaped by external forces and internal dynamics. Like the labyrinth, we hold the memory of past collisions, past choices, past interactions. And like the labyrinth, we continue forward, not as perfect, linear systems, but as living structures in constant motion. To study this galaxy is to step outside of ordinary time. To walk alongside light that has crossed vast gulfs of darkness to reach us. To trace its spirals is to participate in something ancient, ongoing, and immense. And though we may never walk its stars or breathe its air, if it has any, we have, in some sense, already entered it. In our thoughts, in our dreams, in the way we are changed by its presence in our skies. Because the labyrinth doesn't just sit at the edge of the universe. It lives in the mind that dares to follow its spirals inward. And as we follow those spirals inward, each one tighter, darker, more enigmatic than the last, we're drawn into a kind of cosmic introspection. The Labyrinth Galaxy is no longer just a structure made of gas, dust, and stars. It becomes an experience, a deepening meditation on the nature of form, complexity, and time itself. Every twist of its arms challenges us to reconsider how we define order. Every irregular loop whispers that what we once called disturbance might actually be transformation. This is not chaos for its own sake. It is the aftermath of motion, motion stretched across billions of years, motion governed by physics yet infused with the aesthetics of emergence. In the labyrinth, the violent past of collisions and disruptions hasn't torn the galaxy apart. Instead, it has folded those events into a new kind of coherence, one that is richer for its difficulty, more profound for its unevenness. We see in the density waves of its arms a pattern formed not by symmetry, but by consequence. The asymmetries of its disk are not failures of galactic evolution, they are the physical memory of interactions long past. Some arms double back on themselves not randomly, but because they were tugged by passing companions now lost to the void. Others break into strands and reconnect elsewhere, like celestial scar tissue knitting a fractured system back together. These are not simply distortions. They are decisions made by gravity, history etched in curvature. Within the dustier corridors of the labyrinth, new stars are still forming, despite the scars of its past. These stars will never know the galactic calm of a pristine spiral. They are born into a landscape shaped by imbalance and turbulence, yet they shine just the same. And perhaps it is this juxtaposition, the birth of light amid the leftover violence of cosmic history, that defines the labyrinth's power. It is not merely surviving. It is creating, and doing so through the very irregularities that once threatened to dismantle it. Around its central black hole, the density of stars grows extreme. These inner regions are crowded with orbits warped by the black hole's gravity, paths that spiral in ellipses far from Newtonian simplicity. The space here is curved so intensely that time itself ticks more slowly, and the radiation from infalling matter flickers with strange, periodic urgency. The black hole may be dormant now, but it was once more active, and may flare again. Its jets, in past epochs, may have carved channels through the disk, heating gas and stopping star formation in some places while triggering it in others. This feedback cycle, where the central singularity regulates the life of the galaxy around it, is one of the deepest, most mysterious conversations in cosmic structure. Outside the core, along the periphery, faint shells of stars hint at ancient interactions, ripples expanding outward like the rings on water after a stone is thrown. These shells are not just decorative, they are the afterglow of galactic cannibalism. They tell us that the labyrinth did not always look this way. It was once many things, perhaps a simpler spiral, or even two galaxies that collided and fused, their identities now indistinguishable within the whole. And yet, despite all this, despite the violence, the distortion, the asymmetry, the labyrinth holds. It rotates. It glows. It continues. In that endurance is a kind of quiet defiance of entropy. A cosmic expression of balance found not through simplicity, but through process. The labyrinth is not less than a perfect spiral, it is more. It has evolved through experience. It is what the universe becomes when it refuses to collapse under the weight of its own complexity. To witness it, then, is to witness something profound. A vision of structure that grows not in spite of disorder, but because of it. A spiral that bends and loops and folds, not to confuse us, but to remind us that nature does not fear complication. It embraces it. It builds with it. And so we return to our telescopes, our instruments, our theories, again and again, knowing we will never see all of it, never fully chart its interior, never reduce it to a formula. But also knowing that in the pursuit, we change. We are altered by what we attempt to understand. The labyrinth remains distant, unreachable, ancient. But in tracing its light across the black sea of space, we draw closer not just to it, but to the heart of the cosmos itself. Each observation, each data point we extract from its light, is like a thread we tug from the edge of an impossibly vast tapestry. And though the whole will always elude us, the threads themselves carry meaning. A slight shift in spectral lines tells us about motion. A faint infrared glow speaks of hidden dust. A bent arc of starlight reveals mass that cannot be seen, dark matter lurking in the wings, shaping without shining. Piece by piece, the labyrinth reveals not answers, but depth. Its secrets aren't given. They're earned. And in this process of deciphering, something beautiful happens. We begin to mirror the galaxy itself. We spiral inward too. Our understanding, once broad and shallow, becomes narrower and deeper, tracing loops of thought that bend back upon themselves, correcting, refining, revisiting. Science becomes reflection. Observation becomes meditation. The labyrinth is no longer just a distant object. It is a pattern of thought, a shape for curiosity to take. It begins to dissolve the boundary between the external and internal, the objective and the emotional. The same way the galaxy holds memories in its distorted arms, so too do we begin to carry its image within us. It becomes a metaphor for persistence under pressure, for coherence born from complexity, for beauty that doesn't arise from perfection, but from the long endurance of broken things coming together. There is no single vantage point from which the labyrinth can be understood. From one wavelength, it is gas and shadow. From another, it is stars and fire. From yet another, it is heat and magnetic structure. Only by layering these views, by integrating what is seen, what is inferred, and what is still imagined, can we begin to approach a sense of the whole. And even then, we know we are only brushing the surface. In a universe where countless galaxies drift silently through the void, the labyrinth insists on being noticed. Not through brilliance alone, but through form. Its very existence is a gesture, a statement that creation does not follow only one path. That evolution is not a line, but a loop. That even in the deepest gravitational turbulence, a kind of order can emerge. Not clean. Not symmetrical. But alive. And what, in the end, does it mean for something to be alive on a galactic scale? Perhaps it is this: to remain in motion, to change without ceasing, to hold memory and structure, to adapt and continue. The labyrinth does all of these. It is dynamic, reactive, formative. It creates stars. It shelters planets. It alters the matter around it simply by existing in the shape that it does. It is not static, and it is not done. Neither are we. As long as we continue to look up, to explore, to ask, not only how, but why, we are part of the same story. The labyrinth teaches us not to fear complexity, but to follow it. Not to demand finality, but to honor process. Not to seek the center, but to walk the spiral, to feel the structure unfold, and to realize that even when we don't understand everything, we are always part of something vast, something ancient, something still becoming. And still becoming, it is, always. Because the Labyrinth Galaxy is not a monument frozen in time, but a symphony still unfolding, a work in progress written across billions of years in the language of stars, dust, and invisible matter. Its arms are not merely structures, they are gestures of continuity, extensions of a galactic body responding to the gravitational choreography of a larger, unseen web. Every flicker of light from its stars, every pulse from its core, every drift of hydrogen through its arms is a note in this symphony, resonating through the cosmos in a rhythm too slow for any one lifetime to perceive, yet no less real for its vastness. This galaxy, like all things born of gravity and time, is in motion not only through space but through identity. It is not the same galaxy it once was, and it will not be the same again. Its shape will shift. Its light will dim and flare. Its stars will die, and new ones will rise from the ashes. Even its core, its ancient, brooding black hole, may awaken or fall quiet in cycles stretching beyond comprehension. This fluidity is not a flaw. It is the natural mode of the cosmos, and the labyrinth reveals it with poetic clarity. And so, in contemplating the Labyrinth Galaxy, we're not merely learning about a distant structure, we're witnessing the cosmic dance of resilience. This is a galaxy that has bent without breaking, twisted without falling apart. One that has absorbed complexity and used it to shape something greater than the sum of its collisions. It is not a symbol of what was lost in disorder, it is a living example of what can be created through it. This is a truth the universe speaks often, if we know how to listen. We see it not only in galaxies, but in stars that are reborn from supernovae, in planetary systems that coalesce from chaos, in biological life that arises from randomness and adapts across epochs. The labyrinth, then, is not an exception, it is a reflection of the deeper logic that governs the universe, that complexity is not the end of understanding, but its beginning. For astronomers, the labyrinth is an object of endless study, because it resists simplification. For dreamers, it is a map drawn in spirals and stardust, a place where the laws of physics and the aesthetics of wonder converge. For all of us, it is a message from the universe that perfection is not a straight line, but a path that doubles back, intersects itself, evolves over time, and that this path, though difficult, is beautiful. Even now, new observatories are turning their eyes to the labyrinth. Telescopes tuned to millimeter waves, X-rays, ultraviolet and gamma-ray light gather fresh data. Supercomputers reconstruct its evolution, trying to simulate each collision, each flow of matter, each magnetic shift. And still, the models fall short. Still, the labyrinth resists full explanation. Because it is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a presence to be encountered. A long, slow, spiraling meditation on what it means to endure, to evolve, to exist. And somewhere, maybe, just maybe, out there in one of its looping arms, another eye is watching. Another mind is forming questions in its own way, under its own sky. Another being is tracing the light of a far-off galaxy, trying to make sense of the same mystery. And in that possibility, something profound is born, not just a galaxy, but a bridge. A place where science and imagination, matter and meaning, the known and the unknowable meet, and continue, together, into the dark. Into the dark, yes, but not into silence. Because in the universe, darkness is not emptiness. It is depth. It is potential. It is the background upon which the brightest stories are painted. And the Labyrinth Galaxy is one of the brightest, not in sheer luminosity, but in meaning. It speaks, even across hundreds of millions of light-years, even in the faint, delayed glow of ancient photons. It speaks in the way its arms refuse symmetry, in the way its stars scatter like memories across a sky in flux. It speaks in the way it survives. We listen, not only with instruments, but with reverence. And as we deepen our gaze, following the trails of hydrogen that stretch from its disk, we find that the labyrinth doesn't truly have edges. It doesn't end. Like a thought or a melody, it fades into the structure of space itself, merging with the filaments of the cosmic web, linking unseen with clusters and voids, drawing from them the matter that will one day become its future. There are flows of gas connecting it to neighbors we cannot yet detect, ancient rivers of substance that drift between galaxies, slow and nearly invisible, but vital. The labyrinth is part of this network. It is not an island. It is a node in something greater. And so, when we trace its spirals, we are not just observing a galaxy. We are touching the architecture of the universe. We are seeing how matter organizes itself on the grandest scales. How gravity doesn't just bind, it sculpts. How light carries memory. How time leaves fingerprints in the folds of gas and in the bending of orbits. We are watching entropy and structure in dialogue, watching the slow balancing act that keeps this immense, delicate form from falling into chaos. The labyrinth exists at the edge of instability, and that is precisely why it is so dynamic. So alive. There is a sacred defiance in this. Because a galaxy like this should not be this stable. It has suffered disruption after disruption, collision after collision, and yet it spins on. It continues to create. It continues to shine. If that is not a metaphor for the cosmic will to persist, then what is? The labyrinth becomes a declaration, not of perfection, but of possibility. It reminds us that what is tangled is not necessarily broken. What is complex is not necessarily unbalanced. What is scarred is not necessarily weak. In its twisted arms and asymmetric structure, the labyrinth reveals a higher order. A kind of cosmic intelligence, not conscious, not planned, but undeniably profound. A self-organization that arises from raw forces and becomes, through time, something astonishing. And in witnessing this, we are transformed. We are reminded that our own lives, with their turbulence and mystery, are also spirals. That we, too, are shaped by unseen forces. That we carry history in our bones, collisions in our hearts, starlight in our cells. The labyrinth is not just out there. It is within us. A reminder that the universe's most enduring creations are those that carry their past forward, not with regret, but with gravity. With gravity, and with grace. Because there is a quiet grace in the Labyrinth Galaxy's motion, a slow cosmic rhythm that unfolds over scales so vast they blur the line between physics and poetry. Every arc of its arms, every disrupted stream of stars, every whisper of cold molecular gas moving through its disk is part of a greater choreography. A dance not designed, but discovered. A pattern not imposed, but emerged, from countless interactions, from time stretched to the breaking point, from the patient shaping hand of the cosmos. It is this grace, born of turbulence, that leaves such a lasting impression. The labyrinth does not demand attention through violence or spectacle, but through endurance, through the gentle insistence of form surviving chaos. It tells us, without words, that permanence is not about resisting change, but about evolving through it. That strength lies not in rigidity, but in flexibility. Its arms bend but do not break. Its core flares, then quiets, then flares again. Its stars are born into complexity and still manage to ignite. And we, watching from a fragile little world nestled in another galaxy's spiral, feel the echo of that lesson in our own uncertain trajectories. Our histories are not clean. Our paths are not linear. But like the labyrinth, we hold. We continue. Even our instruments reflect that same principle. No single telescope can capture the whole. No one wavelength can tell the full story. It takes layers of observation, years of data, hundreds of minds connecting knowledge like nodes in a web. It takes disagreement, revision, interpretation, wonder. And still, the picture remains incomplete. But it grows. And in growing, it brings us closer, not to a solution, but to a more intimate relationship with the unknown. Because perhaps that's what the labyrinth ultimately is, a space where the unknown isn't something to fear, but something to inhabit. It doesn't close its doors with symmetry or resolution. It opens them with questions that spiral inward, and outward, without end. Its very name, labyrinth, carries with it an ancient human metaphor, a place of mystery, of transformation, of confronting something deeper than expected. In the myths, to enter the labyrinth is to be changed. To pass through it is to emerge different than before. And so, when we gaze into this galaxy, when we trace its tangled arms, its shifting fields, its light stretched across incomprehensible time, we are entering that myth anew. We are placing ourselves inside a story written not in stone, but in stars. A story that began long before us and will continue long after. But while we are here, alive, aware, looking up, we get to read a part of it. We get to walk its spirals in thought. We get to carry its image within us, as a reminder of what can be made not in the absence of difficulty, but because of it. That in a universe where stillness does not exist, where every atom is caught in a web of forces, the very act of continuing, of rotating, of evolving, of persisting in form, is a kind of triumph. The labyrinth is not static, not even in appearance. From every new angle, every wavelength, every moment in time, it reveals a different aspect of itself. It is not one thing. It is many, layered together into a unity that pulses with unresolved tension, and from that tension emerges a quiet power. This is not the kind of power we associate with explosions or domination. It is the power of coherence in a system that should be incoherent. The power of equilibrium that emerges not from balance, but from feedback, from adaptation, from the long memory of motion and energy distributed across 1 billion stars. The labyrinth is a galaxy that should not make sense, and yet, it does. Not in a clean, diagrammable way, but in the deeper sense of rightness that comes when nature is allowed to unfold in full. Its story is not about restoration to a former state. It's not a tale of returning to an original symmetry, or finding the lost spiral beneath the scars. It is the story of becoming something else entirely, something new, unexpected, and beautiful in its own strange rhythm. It is a portrait of transformation on the grandest possible scale. And perhaps that's why it stirs something so deep in us. Because we, too, are not what we once were. We, too, are shaped by collisions, between civilizations, between generations, between memory and moment. We carry the past, distorted and bent through time, and we evolve with it. We grow, not by staying the same, but by allowing ourselves to spiral into new configurations. So when we study the Labyrinth Galaxy, we are not simply cataloging stars or mapping hydrogen flows. We are holding a mirror to the deepest truths of existence. That time carves complexity. That gravity binds even what is broken. That light finds its way, even through dust. That survival is not silence, but motion. Even now, as our technology advances, as new generations of telescopes promise sharper views, more precise measurements, higher resolution into the heart of galactic formation, the labyrinth will remain what it has always been, a mystery with no center, a path with no final step. Not because we cannot understand it, but because understanding it means accepting that some stories are never meant to close. They are meant to open. To carry us, spiral after spiral, deeper into a universe where the most enduring truths are not written in straight lines, but in light that curves through darkness, and finds form in the spaces between certainty. And in the center of that spiral, not an answer, but a question. And that, more than anything, is where the wonder lives. Because wonder is not a conclusion, it is a state of motion, like the galaxy itself. It's what happens when knowledge meets humility, when observation deepens into reverence. The labyrinth doesn't give us certainty. It gives us scale. It gives us silence so vast it becomes music, a structure so intricate it begins to resemble thought, or memory, or even dream. And within that dream, we are not outside observers, we are part of it, woven into the same fabric, shaped by the same forces. This is the quiet revolution the labyrinth inspires. Not the thrill of discovery in the moment, but the slow reshaping of how we see. It is a galaxy that bends us, not just in intellect, but in imagination. It asks us to hold contradictions at once, symmetry and distortion, structure and erosion, clarity and obscurity. And in holding them, we expand. It's no longer just a question of what the labyrinth is, or how it formed, or what it will become. It's a question of how we think in spirals instead of lines. Of how we recognize that beauty isn't always found in the clean and orderly, but often in the layered, the weathered, the alive. There is no final map of the Labyrinth Galaxy. No complete chart, no last word. Every new dataset refines our view and deepens the mystery. This is not a failure. This is the nature of deep truth, it is inexhaustible. Every answer opens new paths, new corridors of thought, like a true labyrinth, drawing us inward even as it spreads outward into the vastness of space. And perhaps that's what makes it sacred, not in a mystical sense, but in the sense of shared meaning, of resonance across time and mind and matter. It becomes a place where science becomes myth, and myth becomes method. A place where data and dream are not opposed, but entangled, like the arms of the galaxy themselves. A place where we go not to conquer with understanding, but to dwell with curiosity. We aim our telescopes again, we simulate, we theorize, we write, we wonder. We return, again and again, to that luminous spiral drifting through the dark, to its knots of light and its threads of shadow. Because in its complexity, we see not only the past of the universe, but the shape of things still becoming, galaxies, yes, but also ideas, futures, ourselves. The Labyrinth Galaxy turns. Not for us, but with us. And in that turning, the universe continues to speak. And so, the labyrinth turns, slowly, silently, without finality. Its spirals continue to unfold across millions of light-years, tracing the echoes of time, matter, and motion into a form that resists reduction and rewards wonder. It does not end, not really. There is no edge where it stops and the void begins, only gradients, only transitions, only the slow fading of light into darkness and the gentle pull of gravity that never truly lets go. To look at the Labyrinth Galaxy is to gaze not just at a distant object, but at a living memory of the universe in motion. It holds within its structure the scars of ancient collisions, the glow of newborn stars, the whisper of dust drifting through magnetic rivers, the weight of dark matter forming the invisible bones of its being. Every twist and loop in its arms is a sentence in a language older than Earth, a passage written in stellar evolution and gravitational dialogue. And still, it continues, carving its path through space, breathing in slow galactic rhythms, spinning and shaping and remembering. The labyrinth does not seek symmetry. It does not follow our rules. It follows only the logic of the cosmos, of energy dispersed and reorganized, of structure emerging from entropy, of beauty rising from imbalance. We will keep watching. Not because we hope to find a final answer hidden in its core, but because in the act of watching, we participate. We become part of its unfolding, part of the same universe that shaped it, that shaped us. Our telescopes become extensions of our own wonder. Our data becomes poetry written in photons. And our questions, endless, spiraling, unfinished, mirror the very galaxy we study. The Labyrinth Galaxy reminds us that we are not observers standing outside the cosmos. We are within it, inseparable from its rhythms and cycles. Its story is our story, written in a different scale, but guided by the same forces of transformation. And like the labyrinth, we, too, carry within us complexity, memory, contradiction, and motion. We, too, are shaped by time, bent by experience, refined by what we endure. So let the labyrinth keep spinning. Let it continue to weave its arms through the dark, marking the silence with luminous defiance. Let it remain unknowable in full, but unforgettable in presence. Because in its tangled light, we see the heart of the universe as it truly is, not perfect, not still, but alive. Unfinished. And unimaginably beautiful.